If you ask most people in America what is the most heavily subsidized industry in America, which industry, which sector of our economy receives the highest level of federal subsidy in America, I guess they'd get it wrong. Because it turns out the sector that gets the highest degree of federal subsidy are for-profit colleges and universities. For-profit colleges and universities. I'd like to say a word or two about the current status of the largest of these for-profit colleges and universities and the tactics that they are using to become even fatter at the expense of American taxpayers. I want to read you a quote about the for-profit college industry. Quote, "They are not educators, and they're looking to manipulate this model to make money. There's nothing wrong with making money, but I think anyone making money in an educational activity has a higher standard of accountability." Some might think that this was a quote from some speech I gave here. They'd be wrong. This was a quote from John Murphy, co-founder of the University of Phoenix, during a recent interview he gave to Deseret News National. The article rightly observes the University of Phoenix is the granddaddy of the for-profit industry. But the enterprise has experienced a dramatic shift in priorities since it became a publicly traded company, according to Mr. Murphy, one of the co-founders. The reason for the change, according to Murphy, is the combination of the new corporate entity, for-profit University of Phoenix, chasing stock prices with the temptation of an open spigot of federal funds. Mr. Murphy calls the federal student loan money, quote, "the juice," close quote, of the for-profit college industry. And for its part, the University of Phoenix is swimming in the juice. They received 84% of their revenue from federal Title IV funding in 2012-2013. How much? $3.5 billion. According to law, for-profit colleges are prohibited. We don't want them to become too dependent on the federal government, so we prohibit them from receiving any more than 90% of their revenue from Title IV federal funding. 90%. When I think of the outrage that I hear from those in Washington who track federal money, I can't believe they're overlooking this industry. A major loophole, however, allows the University of Phoenix to not include Veterans GI Bill benefits or Department of Defense tuition assistance programs in their federal revenue calculation. So I've joined with Senator Tom Carper of Delaware and others to fix this, to close this loophole, to hold the for-profit colleges to no more than 90% of their revenue coming directly from the federal government. A recent article by Aaron Glantz, published by the Center for Investigative Reporting, provides a troubling look into the world of for-profit college recruitment of America's veterans and members of our military. The article details how the University of Phoenix has become a major sponsor of military events. In one instance, they paid $25,000 to sponsor a concert for military members and their families. The company gave away Galaxy computer tablets and wrapped the stage in a giant University of Phoenix banner. In other instances, the Center for Investigative Reporting found the University of Phoenix sponsored resume workshops, which essentially amounted to recruitment drives for their university. According to the article, the company sponsored hundreds of events on military bases, rock concerts, Super Bowl parties, father-daughter dances, Easter egg hunts, chocolate festivals, fashion shows, even brunch with Santa. University of Phoenix paid $250,000, $250,000, to sponsor events over the last 3 years at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. Now, private sponsorship of military events is not unusual, but it's got to raise some eyebrows when the company, whose profits depend on recruiting service members, are paying for these programs. Let's face it, that's what these events were, recruitment events for the company. In the name of corporate sponsorship, the University of Phoenix could gain direct access to military bases with a nod and a wink to service members come to Phoenix. We care about the military. Boy, has it paid off for Phoenix in what Mr. Murphy called the juice of federal funds. The University of Phoenix is the fourth largest recipient of Department of Defense tuition assistance funds, which helps service members continue their education. In FY14, the University of Phoenix received more than $20 million in these benefits. But hold on tight. Here is where the juice gets deep. When it comes to veterans GI Bill funding, the University of Phoenix is the top recipient in America of these funds, $272 million. In return, the company offers service members and veterans degrees of questionable value, below average graduation rates, and get this, a student loan default rate 40%, almost 40% higher than the national average. That's what we're offering to members of our military and veterans through the University of Phoenix and their programs. Now, I don't think this type of behavior by the University of Phoenix is what the president had in mind when he signed Executive Order 13607, intended to prevent for-profit colleges from gaining preferential access to our military. I've written to Secretary of Defense Ash Carter about this outrage. If it's a matter of University of Phoenix not following DoD rules, I want the department to take action. If the University of Phoenix's actions outlined in this report are within the rules need to be changed. I want to say a word about another story by the Center for Investigative Reporting last week. This is almost incredible. And it's difficult for me, and I can't recount the details of the story I'm about to relate. And you'll understand why in a moment. According to the Center for Investigative Reporting, nearly 2,000 unaccredited institutions have received more than $260 million in GI Bill benefits between 2009 and 2014. Some of them are for profit, all are totally unaccredited. When someone serves in our military, we offer them GI Bill benefits, once-in-a-lifetime benefits, for the betterment of themselves and their family. Once they've used the benefits, they're gone. One example of one of these unaccredited institutions that is receiving these benefits for our military, GI Bill benefits, is a sexual therapy school in San Francisco. The name of it is the Institute for Advanced Study of Human Sexuality, unaccredited. The activities that are described in the article about this school, I cannot say on the floor of the Senate. The Institute openly brags, this unaccredited institute receiving GI Bill benefits, openly brags about its massive collection of pornography. And we sent this institution GI Bill funding? That is outrageous. 7 other senators joined me in writing to Secretary McDonald of the VA last week, asking him to investigate and explain. I also expect to speak with him by next week and hope to hear the VA is taking action. The GI Bill is too important for our veterans to have these benefits ever questioned because of a scandal like this. Stories like these abuses by the for-profit college industry and these unaccredited so-called schools appear more frequently. In newspapers and other media outlets across America, this issue has never received so much attention. Unfortunately, here in the halls of Congress, you can still hear the crickets when it comes to this issue. I hope this changes. If we're serious about really caring about our military and their families and our veterans, if we're serious about caring about taxpayers' dollars, if we're honest about this industry that's fleecing the American taxpayers and members of our military, this Congress should act on a bipartisan basis. But some of these schools have friends in high places. Every time I have tried to call them out, someone has stepped in to their defense, usually in a private manner, so the public doesn't know. The day of reckoning is coming on these schools, these for-profit schools. The stock market's catching up with them. Stockholders are catching up with them. Students and their families are catching up with the fact that they're a waste of time and money. Now we've got to make sure that the taxpayers have their day and their attention directed toward this outrageous exploitation.